Do we want to do some stupid awkward intro or just go into it since we're probably going to record a separate intro?
Well, let's just get into it.
All right. Do you want to kick it off this time? I have the thermometer ratings too.
Which one are we doing?
After. Oh, that's a good question. I was thinking Alien Predator, but we could go Predator then. Which one do you like?
Let's do Alien first. I feel like I've got more to say about Predator.
Oh, really? I feel like I might be the opposite. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So Predator was the movie this week. So Predator was the movie this year. I believe it's 1982, I want to say.
I think it was 7.
That sounds better.
I have the wiki up real quick. I don't want to make too many clicks. Yep, 87.
See, 2s kind of look like 7s sometimes.
Yeah, and
so
that is true. I will give you that.
Yeah.
It's an 80s movie.
It's an 80s movie. One of the better 80s movies, I think. Dude. Kind of it's good. A classic.
So good. I don't know. I want to meet someone who's like, nah, that's a terrible movie.
Right.
Because there's some people who probably don't like it, but the majority of the cool kids, I'm sure, are into that movie. Love that movie. I will say every time I watch that movie, this was the thought I had while watching it. I go, I need to work out more.
Yeah, I get
every time. I'm just like, man, 80s movies, because you have Rambo and those other ones too.
Yeah.
It's all about that jacked guy.
It's going the biceps.
With a gun sometimes, usually, and the biceps, and just...
It's not so much like they take their shirt off and they're topless. It's that their sleeves are so short to accentuate their biceps that it's
no, that's 90s. Was like the skinnier guy maybe is still in shape, shirtless, I think.
Right.
In the 2000s, which this is a tangent, I'm sorry. Keanu Reeves, 90s, but then Neo in 2000 was then a bunch of skinny male protagonists.
Right.
That weren't shirtless, but it kind of, there's like a trend of, and then I think it swings.
Right.
Because then you had the Predator movies coming back. Then you had like Expendables with the 80s actors who are now back too in the 2000s, late 2000s. Yeah, anyways.
Predator.
Cut that out if you want.
No, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to rescue some hostages. Is it like Vietnam or is it South America?
Right, because they're speaking Spanish. So I want to say it's South America.
Yeah.
Not Central. Yeah, because I'm like Latin America. But yeah.
Right.
I'm going to go South America. But I always had the Vietnam feeling.
Yeah,
but it was
same.
Technically like a decade or decade and a half.
Right.
Forgetting my exact dates off. So I don't know if it was hearkening to that.
Yeah.
Or if there's a current war. There's always a war.
But anyways, their mission is to go save some hostages. And while they're doing that, they find out that they get set up by the CIA, those bastards. And then
pushing too many pencils. Not caring about their people, their crew.
Damn right.
They're expendable.
Then it foreshadows. And then they end up trudging through the jungle and get hunted by this predator thing that kills a whole bunch of them. Spoilers, the predator is also an alien.
Which is the thing that I always forget every time I watch it, I think
that
every
first
time.
shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely, because you're in the jungle the rest of the time, 99% of the movie. And you're like, oh, that's right. They show that, so it's not as much of a... Right. I'm almost wondering if they should have left that out or if that helps it. What do you think? Leaving that in or...
Yeah, I think leaving it... Well... I mean, I could lose it. I'd be okay.
Yeah. Because if you didn't have it, you might go, well, I've seen the thing, but is it more than one guy? Right. I guess you could still think that, but you would maybe think it's still a guy in a weird suit.
Here's what I liked about Predator. It's one of those kind of movies that starts as one movie and becomes a different movie throughout it, where anybody seeing it goes, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's in the jungle. He's got guns. He's with special ops guys. I know this movie. I've seen this movie before. They're going to go blow some shit up. And then they blow some shit up. Like,
dude, the explosions were good.
Yeah, they were.
I was watching. I was like, these are pretty good.
Yeah. They blow up the thing 30 minutes into the movie, and you're like, all right, well, what happens now? And a lot happens. Then a predator attacks, and you kind of go, what?
Is that a true? No, it's not a bait and switch. I was gonna say
Predator is not a true story.
Herring.
No.
No, I mean, like, is that a red herring? Like them going in there? And then I was thinking bait, but it's not bait and switch.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a red herring because the predator didn't take these guys hostage and.
Well, that's a good point.
Well, though at the
about
same time,
that.
they did send another team first that the predator did catch. So
yeah, and I mean like not for him, more as just a general plot device, but also could be the CIA themselves because of having the other crew in there before.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't know if you had any idea on that.
No, I don't.
Okay, we can just skip that then.
Okay. Thermometer?
Yeah, I can go there.
Yeah.
All right, so just to gauge how critics and other audience members in general feel, reviewing the Rotten Tomatoes scores on this one, the 1987. Oh, I had it written down here too. 1987 Predator comes in fresh at 84% from the critics and 87% from the audience. So it's pretty good.
Pretty similar.
Pretty well received. We already kind of touched a little bit on, I guess, the way the plot kind of goes, and then almost makes you expect it to be this guns blazing, which they there's a lot of guns blazing, but it dies down after that initial half hour, like you said, basically, momentarily, and then there's sporadic or like little spurts of this and throughout it, and then it becomes kind of like a suspense. I was gonna say horror, but it's more like a suspense, sci-fi thing, because it's actually an alien creature. Oh, the one thing I was gonna say with that, to touch on maybe why the critics are so high on it, and you're the one who comes in with the little trivia facts, so maybe you can speak to it. I don't usually look at that. Okay, so on a technical standpoint, whatever, the sound effects and mixing and all that, I feel like that plays into critics giving it a better rating, I'm gonna say, along with other stuff, but I'm gonna guess that's part of it, because there's stuff like when the predator imitates or says what the others are saying.
Right.
And did you catch that? I don't know how much throughout, but there was a couple parts where you hear it from him. I
didn't catch that any of the other numerous times I've seen the movie, but this time it really kind of stuck with me that, oh yeah, it's mimicking. It's kind of setting little traps. Mm-hmm.
I knew at the end with Arnold Schwarzenegger with Dutch, right? It's a D. Dutch. Yeah. That the predator does that then, and obviously repeats what he says in the moment. But when Dylan, before he dies, he's looking for Mac, or maybe it was right after he saw that Mac was actually dead, whatever. In that moment, you hear, I forgot what the thing was they said, but it was something that Mac said earlier in the movie.
Right, yeah.
That we heard the predator repeating when there's that moment that was more obvious. So some of that stuff I'm like was there, but I didn't catch the little insertion of it later. And so I wonder how many more there were like that, because there was one or two others I noticed I didn't before.
There's a couple. Did you watch with subtitles on?
I did, but I forgot to change it. It was Spanish subtitles, and I was too lazy to change it. Gotcha. I usually have the captions on there, right?
Yeah. With the subtitles on, it's definitely there's some mimic moments. Mm-hmm. A thing that really bothered me about Mac dying was his head explodes, but then Dylan sees his head later.
Yeah.
It was like,
I think it's supposed to be a hole through it, but you don't even see in the front where you think.
He's just kind of
from where, because it's like up. Obviously, I'm pointing. People can't see this, but like the top of your head, down a little bit, not quite forehead. Right. But it seemed like it was gonna be forehead. Yeah. Unless he moved. Yeah, I know they didn't show that for the effect, but I love I feel bad for Dylan's. Dylan as a character.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so epic. He gets his arm shot off. Yeah. And then he pulls it. And it's right after you're kind of thinking initially, for me, it's like, okay, he's friends with Dutch. But then you find out that he basically sent them to potentially their deaths or in a situation that Dutch wouldn't want his
He didn't
team
give
to
him all
be
the
in.
facts.
So then for me, I was like, okay, I don't like that, so I don't really like him. And then all of a sudden he's just like, as soon as he sees the thing, he has to see it to believe it, because it's the whole time he's like, it's got to be 2 or 3 men.
Right.
And then he sees it and he's all, nope, I'm gonna go with Mac, and we're gonna try to take care of this thing. And then he fails, but it's pretty epic how he goes out, and yeah, it's good. I love it. They're so good, and Mac is such a good actor, slowly going crazy. Right. That guy who plays him, that was so good. Oh man.
Because the Jesse Ventura is the other guy, right? Where that was his friend that gets killed.
Yeah, that's what sets him off, it seems.
Do you want a fun fact?
Sure, let's do some fun facts.
Jesse Ventura bet Arnold Schwarzenegger that his arms were bigger than Arnold's, and they bet a expensive bottle of champagne or something. And then they measured it, and Arnold, of course, had bigger arms than Jesse Ventura. But Arnold also told the wardrobe girls to tell Jesse that his arms were bigger than Arnold's, so that he would think that he had bigger arms, so that he would bet Arnold.
Oh, he set him up.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It sounds like it was probably a pretty fun set with a bunch of macho guys.
I know. I'm telling you, every time I'm like, I need to do push-ups. I've been doing a lot of push-ups lately, but I need to do more and more things.
I've been doing some swimming, but
it's so good. Oh, nice. Yeah. I get out there every once in a while. It's all the macho guys. Even the skinny guys are pretty cut for being skinny.
Right.
I know Billy wasn't the skinniest, but then he does take his shirt off. But even he's just, come on, and then they don't show his death.
Yeah. And it feels like such a steak and potatoes kind of exercise type thing. Like, everything's so precise now with, did you hit your, I don't even remember what they're called. Did you hit your metrics or whatever? But with all of those guys, it just feels like, oh yeah, they had a bunch of steak and potatoes and then ran around in the jungle and did pull-ups off trees and hunted wild boar and...
Yeah, there's no other substances involved at all.
Yeah, definitely not. So, another thing about Predator, it's very quotable. A lot of great quotes.
Yeah, you and I, classic, man.
Classic.
We used to work together, and almost every day we'd come in and do the
What's
handshake.
the matter? CIA got you pushing too many papers? Dylan, you son of a bitch.
You son of a...
Yeah. Get to the chopper. Quotable.
Stick around.
Stick around. Stick around. You're one ugly motherfucker. Or whatever it was.
They gave him all the one-liners.
Yeah. Whole bunch of one-liners.
Yeah. There's a couple other things in there. Yeah. That weren't him that I'm like, okay, yeah, but not as memorable quotes.
So for the stick around line, they hired a local blacksmith to make a machete or something for Arnold, but it was so big and clunky and uncomfortable that he didn't want to carry it around the whole time, so he stick around, and that's why that blade stays there, because he didn't want to carry it around anymore.
What? I'm trying to figure out. So he threw it at a guy and got it stuck in him.
What? Stick around, yeah.
Or did he do that and they're like, oh, we gotta put that in the movie, and then he doesn't have to carry it around?
Yeah, he didn't want to carry it around anymore, so he stabbed a guy and then kept it there, and he just keeps it there. Whatever. Cut this out.
Wait, no, we don't have to. It sounded funny or interesting. I'm trying to picture the logistics. Consider me dumb. I'm trying to think.
Ooh.
So he just
why would we call this Story Shack? We should call it Consider Me Dumb.
Yeah,
I like that.
He actually on set killed the guy with the knife, or they had to. They had to plan it out though. What are you talking about? He just was like, nah, expendable crew. He
made a bunch of knives, and the one that the director liked and was good, he threw it or whatever, and just didn't end up liking it, so he said, I'm just going to keep it stuck in him rather than take it with me. And I'll just say a quick little one-liner.
He could have just...
Yeah, he could have just pulled it out and kept it.
Pulled out. That's true. All right, I see.
Yeah.
See, I told you I'm dumb. I need you to explain it.
So, spoiler for the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We usually record these 2 at a time. And we did this with another movie. And for both of these movies, the one thing that was in the back of my head the entire time was, how would I remake this movie? Because we've done the, before and after kind of Texas Chainsaw, The Thing, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Predator kind of has other variations of it and sequels, but a lot of them are just, there's no like straight out, well, I guess there is. There's Predators, which just added a bunch of them. But I was trying to think of like, all right, if I wanted to reboot this franchise, how would I go about doing it? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or should I just...
I don't think you can remake them. Okay. Now, I did have the thought of, can you really remake the movie and have it be as successful, as high of a Rotten Tomatoes score? You know?
I don't...
Because it might be a thing that you can only do at the time. Because if you do it now, you're going to have to update it like they've done in the other ones in a way, right? And then, which is fine, it makes sense because it has to resonate with the current audience. But it'd be great. It's been done, not a lot. I'm trying to think of one. I feel like it's been done where a series captures the feel of that, say that decade, but makes it like 30 years later.
Right.
Where it still feels kind of, you know what one comes to mind?
What?
Which was very similar, actually, would be Evil Dead, like the movies. Were kind of close because they had it, but it was updated and it was a little creepier and they did some other stuff. But more so, what I was really into, finally binged it like last year, was Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yeah.
That series, because then they put in some of the, like, the characters chauvinistic. It's almost like the stuff you couldn't do now. But and I think it came out sometime in the last 10 years. Whenever, and there was like 2 or 3 seasons or something. And that captured like the feeling of that decade and that the way that that movie is or feels. I'm not saying this very well, but the essence of it, of that movie in modern time with updated like looks. But I think they probably kept some of the stuff looked kind of like the old school, like we've talked about, prosthetics and makeup and stuff like that. So that kind of, I think, helped it. So if you did all that kind of thing and had like, I mean, I guess the newer Predator ones, it wasn't like just CGI or something. So they were kind of doing that. They just never really landed for me.
All right. Well,
so I want to hear your thoughts because I rambled and I didn't really give a solid answer on how I would remake it.
We're going to do a new section. It's called Call Hollywood. And I'm gonna pitch my remake idea for this movie.
I like it. And
within the next, however many decades, if a remake comes out that follows this pretty, accurately, I'm suing somebody.
Yeah, sure. I'll back you up on that.
So my idea to remake The Predator is to have it still be like a South American country. Have it be that villagers are getting attacked by some unknown thing. They think it's a jaguar, they think it's a something, and they just send in this team of mercenaries to go capture it. And I see the shot of like, don't do the, like, I'm sure it was revolutionary and cool for the time being, but the whole like invisible effect where you see his eyes glow and everything. Yeah,
they're trying to really play it up a little bit.
Take that out. Just have like trees and stuff move whenever he's going through the trees. Like keep him as hidden as possible, which isn't hard because he has camouflage. And just have kind of the same thing where they're just going out to hunt this, what they think is a leopard or some sort of creature that keeps like killing these villagers. And then it ends up being a predator. And then you can kind of fill in the blanks from there with the mud and the stuff. But just kind of bring more of a horror element to it because it feels very action-y. It's an action movie disguised as, or it's a horror movie disguised as an action movie, I think. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a horror, though the creature is pretty scary looking.
Right. Yeah, that's why I got this, not psychological, but kind of suspense.
Yeah. And the fact that it like mimics, and that's kind of creepy. I just feel like there are a lot of good elements with it that if you just took out the big action guys element to it and just make it a little creepier and a little more kind of trotting through the jungle. I mean, you can still have macho guys, you can still have mercenaries and guns and all that stuff, but have it be more realistic, logical.
I mean, if you do it right now, you could probably still get Arnold Schwarzenegger to go in there.
Yeah.
It just might not be as believable.
He could be like the consultant that's like, oh, you don't want to go out there. You don't know what you're hunting.
Yeah. You could almost get Dwayne Johnson. He's doing the fast movies.
Yeah, but I guess he does do some guns. Yeah,
I know, but it's him and John Cena have been more kidsy.
Right.
Kids.
See, that's too big of a name. It's got to fly under the radar. It's got to go like Rambo 4 style, where a trailer just shows up one day and it's super violent. And you're like, what the fuck? They were making this? And then it can just spawn off a whole new thing. But keep it a guy in a suit, but don't do the cheesy visual, invisible thing. Make the kills a little more brutal. Make it a little more stealthy.
You know, you and I can make this movie, Jake. We can do this right now.
Call Hollywood.
Our budget would be like $1,000.
Well, that's good. That's why the thing's invisible most of the movie, because we can't afford to...
Just go run out there and shake some trees.
Yeah.
I'll get my son to help.
Yeah.
Put him in a green suit and have him swing from trees.
But that's my idea for a remake, if they were to do one. I think it could be pretty cool. I like the idea of these big...
can see it.
I feel like a lot of these franchises, like, they always end up doing this, and it always seems to work a little bit better. They get so convoluted and so full and so away from their original... Like, look at the Fast and the Furious. It started out as a street racing movie, and now they're... whatever the fuck they're doing. Like, and, you know, give it 10 years, there'll be a reboot, and it'll come out, and they'll just be street racing again. Be like, oh, cool, nice. And they'll take it in a slightly different direction.
This feels retro. We're into this.
Yeah. So, you know, start small.
Yeah.
You can build from there, but, like, keep it simple.
I think there should just be another thing that's unique and new. That's its own thing, but could be similar.
Yeah.
Just another new alien creature.
Yeah.
That kind of spawns a following because it's done well and the movie is good. And I don't know if there's anything.
Can I go on a tangent real quick?
Sure, of course. That's what we're here for. Everybody is forced to listen. So.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately because like I'm trying to write things. I'm trying to come up with original ideas. And it's so hard when there's so much content and there's so many things that are already made. It's hard to find like an original thing. Mm-hmm. And thinking of like these creature movies and things, and like the ones that have come out that were like big recently was like not even recently. It was in the last 20 years. Cloverfield, Super 8. Mm-hmm. It's all J.J. Abrams.
True.
And like they're not small human-sized creatures, so they lose that kind of element to it. But also, just in their design, they're not memorable. Mm-hmm. They're not memorable. And I think that's the biggest flaw. Like, you see Predator, like, is it because they've become so iconic? Or is it the design of the creatures themselves? Is it Stan Winston?
Yeah, I mean, maybe part of the problem is how much reach there is and social media and all that. And I'm just saying that because Cloverfield, as the example, I remember all the jokes about, you can't even see the monster. There's memes and jokes made about it that I wasn't alive yet when Predator came out.
Right.
Though, so, I mean, there could have been some of that stuff, but even if it was, I feel like it wouldn't be as easily widespread.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know who I heard that from. It could have been a stupid bit or like a late night thing or whatever, and that was the joke, and that made it seem less appealing. And then the shaky cam stuff that was happening at the time for that specific movie, like, I feel like that was the first one that you could point to. It might not have been the first one, but then there's a whole slew after that. Right. So it set a trend, which that stuff happens, and there's a bunch of other movies that aren't that good that might have been similar to Predator, or you have like similar genre stuff coming out. Yeah. But Yeah.
I don't really remember where I was going with it all. I was really disappointed by Cloverfield because it felt like they were trying to like start a franchise. And in a way they kind of did because they had the two little spin-off movies that were completely different than the first one. But like I just
weird.
don't it just it just felt like they were trying to start franchises, but they just didn't have the villain, the character, the antagonist as like fleshed out as, you know, Predator is or Alien is, and it's just like, oh, we need to throw a monster in here, you know, copy and paste.
Yeah. And with that, the other, you know, Alien and Predator are, when they first came out, it wouldn't have been, there's more lore to it now because it's been around for a long time in other movies.
There wasn't the internet. There wasn't...
Try and disassociate that.
Yeah.
You know, because even for Predator, like one thing I was thinking, I didn't know if it would come up, but as an example, Dutch gets shot by his little, I forget what the, like laser beam shoulder cannon, I think, but it doesn't go through him. Right. It just like singes him, which technically something I didn't catch before is Jesse Ventura's, I'm blanking on his character's name. His character gets shot on the arm first, I think. I didn't realize. Mm-hmm. And then gets blown through. So maybe like a graze still kind of happens, and that's kind of what happened. But Arnold's looked like it was right on his shoulder. Or his arm. Then I'm surprised I didn't blow it off, technically. But then in my head, I know, or at least I'm pretty sure, I should have looked this up, was that the cannon technically has to recharge, but he can fire. So I think since he was firing, that was like his third shot in a row. Mm-hmm. That might be why it didn't do that. So I'm just, but I'm saying that because tangent here. I played an Alien vs Predator game that was, I had it on the PC for the computer, and it was before the Alien vs Predator movies. But you could play as human, alien, or predator. And there's like different campaigns for each.
I remember that game.
And I remember, I played that so much. I remember being like 12 or something. So I want to say it was around 2000. And I think there was like, you had either 3 shots or like 1 on the cannon. It had to recharge or something like that. If it was 3, it still had to recharge. But either way, there's functionality behind it that I'm saying didn't come, at least to my knowledge, because of, say, that game and stuff that may have been later. Right. And then I can't remember the sequel. Maybe there's something like that too in that one. I don't remember, because there was more detailed stuff in that, like another thing of how he heals himself, and so there's all that may not have been established for that movie. So I'm trying to think, is there more weight behind it because there's more stuff later? Because as a movie on its own, they talk about some of the stuff, because we're with the team figuring out some of the way that it works, and it does bleed, and and what kind of weaponry it's using and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing it when I was a kid and thinking, oh, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It's going to be an action movie. And then remember kind of being creeped out that there was this predator living in the jungle. So, well,
do you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, that's all I've got for Predator. It's a good one. I enjoy it still. Yeah. It holds up.
I definitely enjoy it. I didn't have too much else besides the creepy horrorness of it because of the skinned bodies and the skulls and all this. So all that together, action-y, but then it's not really an action movie.
There's a little misdirect with it.
The quotes. And I'm just really glad that Arnold finally got to the chopper at the end. They had to have that like cheesy ending of him standing there, no shirt, just kind of like flexing, because and it was kind of almost like patriotic music, which I was trying to think on this one. The crew is expendable, right?
Or no.
And so in Alien, the crew is labeled as expendable, basically, but in this it's more like disregard but kind of expendable. Dylan does say something along the lines of, I think, that the crew doesn't matter or is expendable. I can't remember.
Something like that. I remember something like that.
Yeah. All right, I'll end there. That was all I want to say. There wasn't too much more. And that was Predator.
And that was
scene.
Predator. And scene.